Kaladin Stormblessed indeed. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're back with another video, another review. My name is Noah, and today we are talking about Words of Radiance, the second book in the Stormlight Archive book series by Brandon Sanderson. This is a massive, massive book, almost 1,100 pages long, a lot of words, a lot of descriptions, a lot of dialogue, and a lot that goes on. It's almost a direct continuation of book one. So if you enjoyed book one and how it ended and where it finished and you wanted just to jump right back into the story, this goes right into it. There's not a big time skip. There's not a bunch of change, and everybody's where they are. There's some interesting character developments and changes as the story goes on, most notably in the second half, final third rather, of the story. And if you enjoy a lot of world building, a lot of looking around and seeing things and understanding a new fantasy place, this book is perfect for you. And especially if you enjoyed the first one. I think on Goodreads, this has the highest rating of all of the books released so far in the series. And yeah, to me, it was more enjoyable than book one. I found that the beginning half or the first 2/3 of the book was slow, a lot of development, a lot of setting things up. And some of the characters that had intriguing bits in that first half or first 2/3, they weren't that intriguing to me. I didn't really care that much. And without going into too many spoilers, I felt like once you hit around like 600 pages or so, that's really when things kicked off. And to me, it was worth it. It was worth getting to that those exciting conclusive events towards the end to read the entire book. But if you're not into something that long, maybe this one isn't for you. And the series is only going to get longer. I believe the audiobook for this is like 48 hours or something. And the next book is 50 something. And so they just keep getting longer and longer. And I don't think Brandon Sanderson is going to slow down anytime soon. But I wanted to kind of pinpoint the things that I liked and things I didn't like, and then talk a little bit about some spoilers and some things that I hope for in book 3 whenever we get around to reading that. I think I'll read some smaller things in between just to tick off my TBR a little bit more and give myself a break from massive books. So starting with the things that I liked, I thought the pacing is pretty good until the very end, and then it gets better, it improves, and I think the world building is strong. The magic system, the way it's sort of unraveled for us, that's all interesting stuff. Without giving away much of what happens, I think Kaladin has the best storyline here. He's really the reason to read the book. He's on the cover, so that tells you something. And then this guy is on the back cover, so that also tells you something. And that really is the crux and the pinnacle of the whole story. Everything that happens with Kaladin is basically interesting from the beginning to the end of the book. Everything that happens with Dalinar is not as interesting, and it's especially not as interesting as book 1. I thought he was more interesting in book 1. And then everything with Shallan gets more interesting, again, once you get past page 600. Her stuff doesn't have as much of a shining pinnacle moment as it did in the very end of The Way of Kings. I don't think her ending is as exuberant or as exciting as it is in The Way of Kings. However, it may be good, but it's overshadowed by Kaladin. So without spoiling, again, if you loved Kaladin and you loved what happened in book 1, book 2 it just expounds upon it quite a bit and really blows things up. The things that I didn't like, it's the length. It is so long, and I know, I give it a 5-star review on Goodreads because while there is nothing technically wrong with it, there's no major plot hole, there's no problems, and anything that I am confused by, I trust that Sanderson has an answer for it, and it will be revealed later on. I don't think that he's just going to leave things in the dust because he plots too well, but I do think that it is very, very long, and I'm comparing it to other things. I'm comparing it to Red Rising or the Night Angel trilogy by Brett Weeks. Some of these books that are maybe a little more personal, but have this epic world feel to them, and just a lot goes on. Especially, look at my my Red Rising review. Book 2, book 3 of that series are just a rush of energy and excitement and action, and that really holds a lot of attraction to me. And maybe you do like a slower slog of a book, something like the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. if that's the case, then yeah, you'll enjoy sitting through a lot of pages of stuff that to me isn't that important. And I know it's just slow build up to this big wave of excitement later on. But to me, the length of it is a bit of a distractor. I think it could be a couple hundred, 300 pages shorter probably, and it wouldn't detract from what the story is. Another thing that I'm not a fan of, and this is just me personally, and I know it's not something that's going to change with Sanderson's works, but I think the over scientificness of the magic system, making it too sciencey, that's just not my cup of tea. And that's not really a fault with how it was written. I think that's just a personal preference. And a lot of people do love his world building and his magic, especially because he has these complex systems of magic, and that's kind of the focal point of the story. To me, that's not really the focal point of a book. I'm more a fan of things where it's a little bit softer and you just kind of accept things as they are, and the characters and the plot, that's kind of what drives things. And so I'm not really that interested in understanding the science of how these things work. I realize I'm probably in the minority there because these books sell really, really well, and people love all the little intricacies of magic and the science. And so that's just a personal opinion of mine. But I don't love how it, Sanderson really goes out of his way to explain away the magic of things and just make it say, hey, no, this is really science. It's just a science from a different kind of world. And so to me, that's not as exciting as it could be. So I would give it a 5 out of 5. And that's mainly for the ending alone. I think things just accelerate so much, and you have some really cool action pieces, and you have some cool intrigue, and the characters make decisions that are very interesting and very thought-provoking. And to me, that really drives up the score on this one. I think if, halfway through, I was questioning whether I would really want to read book 3, whether I'd want to continue with the series. But getting towards that end and really diving into the final conflicts, that just boosts the whole book. And so it is, again, if you're not interested in something super long, don't read it. There's other stuff out there to read. But if you do like long stuff, and if you do like stories that just take a while to tell because they are showing a lot of things, then you're going to love this, and the payoff is going to be even better. If you love something like The Wheel of Time, you're going to love this book. If you love something like the Red Rising series, maybe not as much. It's just a lot. It's just a long book. And I know they only get longer, so I'm in for a lot more reading. And some people, again, that's their strength. That is the best part of this book, is how long it is. I remember I had a job at a movie theater when I was younger, almost 10 years ago, and one of my fellow employees, she was reading, maybe it must have been the first book at the time, maybe it was the second book, but she was talking about how the series is going to be so long, and it's going to be, I remember her saying it's going to be bigger than the Bible. And at first I thought it's going to be bigger, like more important. It's going to have more of a cultural impact than the Bible. But then I realized what she was saying. No, it's going to be literally more words than the Bible. And again, to some people, that's not an accomplishment. It's not a good thing because it's just too long. And for other people, that's great. You wrote millions and millions of words. We love this book. We love this book series. So it depends, again, who you are. Okay, so this is a spoiler warning. Do not watch beyond this if you've not read this book already. Or if you don't care, then you can do whatever you want. But we're going to be talking about a couple things that are spoilers, and then some of my hopes for book 3 and what I wish would happen. Okay, so the fight with Seth in the clouds where they're flying is, my goodness, that literally it makes the whole story. It makes the whole book. It's worth everything. And I know, I complained about the magic of, like, when the scene where Kaladin is learning to fly, and Sanderson goes so much out of his way to explain how it's not flying, it's lashing, it's gravity manipulation, which I don't think makes as much sense as maybe he thinks it does, because lashing to something, changing your gravity to the wall, that sort of makes sense. I can kind of wrap my head around that. Or up to the ceiling, it's like, to me now, this ceiling has the gravitational weight that, pulls me that way versus down. Scientifically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's where the magic comes in. So I get that. But then the idea that you can, like, lash yourself in a direction, because according to the Ars Arcanum in the back, the lashing is for directions, which is just could be any way. And it's also to things. So you can lash yourself to a thing, as into the wall, and now that's your gravity, that's your down. But you could also just lash yourself at an angle to nothing. You could be in a cornfield in Kansas and lash yourself to nothing. And I don't know, it seems a bit of a cop-out. If you can lash yourself to directions, then what's the point of lashing yourself to different objects? Because that is another power. You can like stick yourself to stuff or stick things to things, but yeah, I mean, there's no mass, there's nothing up above to lash to. So that does lose me a little bit. But having said all that, the fight scene with Kaladin and Seth is just phenomenal. It's outstanding. Dalinar, you know, I didn't really stick too much with me. I thought the Dalinar Navani romance in book 1 was cool and was interesting. Not as cool and interesting here. There just nothing really much happens with it. Adolin, his storyline, he's just really good at dueling. I think the dueling stuff is interesting. I do think that dueling part where, you know, he challenges one of the enemy guys and he's going to go, you know, a 2v1, and then 4 guys show up into the arena. He's like, well, you didn't really specify, so we can do whatever we want according to the rules. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. But then Dalinar realizes, oh, well, we can also do anything we want as well according to the rules. We can, you know, just as long as it's not outnumbered, we can, you know, stick our own guys in there. And that's where Kaladin and Renarin jump in. But that to me is like, if we knew what the rules of dueling were beforehand, then I think that would be more interesting. And as readers, we could go, oh, but you actually get to have more people jump in. Or we could be more surprised when 4 guys jump out. And so that, I think that's supposed to be a really cool moment where, you know, we think that the good guys have gotten tricked, but it doesn't really land that well for me. I think the Kaladin Shallan romance, yeah, that's what I want to see. I don't care about Adolin. I mean, I think Adolin's more interesting now because of him killing Sadeas at the end. And I think the juxtaposition between Kaladin, you know, desiring to kill Elhokar and going with Moash to make this thing happen in this traitor aspect, and then having a change of heart and regaining Syl, that's all good. That's all cool. And then, you know, juxtaposing that to Adolin saying, you know what, I feel like I'm not as cool as I was because now Shallan is better than me and she has a higher status than me, and everybody else seems to be irradiant except for me. And almost in sort of like a petulant child kind of way, he just kills Sadeas. It came out of nowhere a little bit, but it's still interesting. I think it's still cool. And I think that will, yeah, that'll change things. And maybe they're going to use regrowth or something on Sadeas to bring him back. I don't know. But anyways, I think that's interesting. My hopes for book 3, yeah, I just hope Kaladin is just cooler and better, able to fight more. He does have the honor blade from Seth. Seth now seems to be working with one of the other, I don't want to say Radiance, but the like gods who have given the Radiance their powers. And Dalinar is a bondsmith who is, you know, working with the Stormfather, I guess, but he doesn't have the ability to bond to a Spren shard blade. Also, I wonder about this: if shard blades are Spren, are shard plate? Is shard plate also Spren? That's a question I have for book 3. I hope that Adolin fully embraces being the villain. I hope he, you know, him killing Sadeas just makes him go more evil. I think that'd be an interesting character turn. You know, that's kind of it. I'm looking forward to seeing where book 3 goes. If book 3 spends a bunch of time setting stuff up again and people are traveling and people are doing kind of nothing, I'm not going to be that excited for it. But we'll go into it with an open mind, knowing how good the end of book 2 was. So anyway, that's a lot, and that's my review. Words of Radiance. Have you read it? Did you like it? What did you think of it? Is it the greatest book of all time? Is Brandon Sanderson the best fantasy author of all time? Yes, no. What are your thoughts? Leave it down in the comments below. If there's another massive book series that I should read that's not the Wheel of Time, let me know, and we'll get to it at some point maybe. But I think the next book review will be something far shorter to allow me to keep my sanity. Until next time, thanks for watching.